quietly fall apart. Nobody noticed how tired your eyes looked. Nobody heard the silence inside your chest. Nobody knew how many thoughts were slowly exhausting your soul. But God did. He saw the tears you wiped away quickly, before anyone could ask questions. He saw the nights you stared at the ceiling, unable to explain what was hurting you. He saw the moments you sat in complete silence, pretending to be okay, because you didn't want to become a burden to anyone. And tonight, God wants you to know something. You were never suffering alone. Even during the moments when nobody checked on you. Even during the seasons where you felt emotionally invisible. Even during the nights where you wondered if anyone would notice. If you disappeared for a while, God was there, quietly watching over the version of you that nobody else truly saw. The version that kept saying, "I'm fine," while emotionally breaking inside. The version that became strong for everyone else, while secretly wishing someone would finally ask, "Are you really okay?" And maybe that question never came. Maybe people saw your smile, but never saw the pain hiding behind it. Maybe they saw your strength, but never realized how exhausted that strength had made you. Maybe they only noticed the version of you that survived, not the version of you that was silently drowning. But God saw both. He saw the strong version, and He saw the hurting version too. He saw the tears you cried in bathrooms, so nobody would hear you. He saw the long drives where your mind would not stop racing. He saw the nights you kept scrolling on your phone, trying to distract yourself from your own thoughts. He saw the moments where you felt emotionally numb. The moments where you wanted to cry, but couldn't anymore. And He never looked away from your pain. Not once. Sometimes people think God only notices perfect prayers. But tonight, God wants you to understand something deeper. He also notices silent suffering. He notices the prayers that never came out of your mouth. He notices emotional exhaustion. He notices hidden sadness. He notices the nights where your soul feels too tired to explain itself. And maybe lately, you have been asking yourself questions you never say out loud. Why have I been feeling this way for so long? Why does my heart feel so heavy all the time? Why do I feel lonely even around people? Why am I emotionally tired, no matter how much sleep I get? And the truth is, carrying pain silently for too long changes a person. It makes them smile differently. It makes them think differently. It makes them emotionally retreat from the world. You begin answering messages later. You stop explaining yourself. You start saying, "I'm just tired," because explaining the real pain feels impossible. And after a while, you become so used to hiding your emotions that nobody realizes how much you are actually hurting. But God realized before anyone else did. He saw the nights where your chest felt heavy for no reason. He saw the mornings where getting out of bed felt emotionally difficult. He saw the pressure you carried while still trying to stay kind to people. And God is not disappointed in your exhaustion. He understands it, because He saw how long you have been carrying emotional weight that nobody else could see. You carried disappointment. You carried betrayal. You carried loneliness. You carried anxiety. You carried the pressure of pretending to stay strong. And slowly, Your soul became tired. Not because you are weak, but because you have been emotionally surviving for too long. There are people listening to this right now who have not truly relaxed emotionally in months. Their body is resting, but their mind never stops. Even during peaceful moments, their thoughts continue fighting invisible battles. And maybe that has been you. Maybe your mind has become a place that never feels quiet anymore. Overthinking, remembering, replaying conversations, questioning yourself, trying to understand why certain people hurt you, trying to understand why some prayers felt unanswered, trying to understand why you still feel empty after pretending to be strong for so long. God saw every one of those moments. And tonight, He wants to speak gently to the exhausted parts of your heart. Not the version of you everyone sees. The hidden version. The version that cries quietly at night. The version that feels forgotten sometimes. The version that secretly wonders if healing will ever happen. God sees that version too. And He has not abandoned you. Even if it felt quiet. Even if heaven felt silent. Even if you kept waiting for things to get easier. God never stopped watching over your heart. Sometimes healing begins not when pain instantly disappears, but when someone finally feels seen inside their pain. And maybe for a very long time, you have felt emotionally invisible. Maybe people only came to you when they needed something. Maybe you were always the one helping everyone else. Maybe you listened to everyone's pain while hiding your own. Strong people often suffer silently because they become so used to carrying others that nobody realizes they also need comfort. And maybe you became that person. The dependable one. The calm one. The supportive one. Meanwhile, inside, you were slowly becoming emotionally exhausted. And the hardest part? Nobody noticed how much strength it was taking just to keep going, but God noticed. He noticed every silent battle. Every hidden breakdown. Every moment you wanted to give up emotionally, but still continued anyway. And tonight, He wants you to stop believing the lie that your pain was invisible. Because heaven saw every tear. Even the tears nobody else respected. Even the tears people told you to get over. Even the tears you felt embarrassed about. God collected every one of them. Because your pain mattered. You mattered. And maybe nobody ever told you this before. But surviving emotionally difficult seasons takes enormous strength. People see survival as normal. But they do not see the internal battles behind it. They do not see the nights you almost broke down completely. The mornings you forced yourself to function. The moments you sat alone trying to hold yourself together. The emotional exhaustion hiding behind your smile. But God saw it all. And He is proud of the fact that you kept going. Even when your heart felt tired. Sometimes people think healing means never crying again. But real healing often begins when someone finally stops hiding their pain. And maybe this message tonight is the first moment in a long time where you finally feel emotionally understood. Maybe for the first time in months. You feel like someone finally described the pain you could never explain. That feeling matters. Because emotional healing begins with recognition. The heart starts recovering the moment it realizes, and tonight, God wants to remind you of something important. You do not have to earn His comfort. You do not have to pretend to be emotionally perfect. You do not have to hide your exhaustion from Him. You do not have to act strong every second. God already knows the truth about your heart. And He still stays. Even during your weakest nights. Even during your most emotionally confused moments. Even during the nights where faith felt difficult. He stayed. And maybe you judged yourself for being tired. Maybe you felt guilty for emotionally shutting down. Maybe you wondered if something was wrong with you, because you felt so exhausted. But exhaustion is not failure. Sometimes exhaustion is what happens when someone has been carrying pain quietly for too long. Your soul has been fighting battles people never knew about. Battles against loneliness. Battles against anxiety. Battles against hopeless thoughts. Battles against emotional emptiness. And yet somehow, you are still here. Still breathing. Still listening. Still hoping deep down that things can get better. That matters more than you realize. Because some people gave up emotionally a long time ago. But there is still a part of your heart searching for light. And God sees that too. He sees the part of you that still wants peace. The part of you that still wants healing. The part of you that still quietly whispers, I don't want to feel this broken forever. And God is not ignoring that prayer. Even when healing feels slow. Even when progress feels invisible. Even when your emotions still feel heavy. God is still working gently inside your heart. Not loudly. Not violently. But softly. Like light slowly entering a dark room. Healing rarely happens all at once. Sometimes it begins in small moments. A moment where you finally cry honestly. A moment where your heart finally feels understood. A moment where you stop blaming yourself for being tired. A moment where you realize God never hated you for struggling. Those moments matter. And tonight may be one of those moments for you. So breathe slowly. You survived every painful night before this one. And you will survive this season too. Not because you are pretending to be strong. But because God has quietly carried you through moments you thought would completely destroy you. There were nights you thought you would never emotionally recover. Yet somehow, you are still here. That is not weakness. That is survival. So tonight, rest your exhausted thoughts for a moment. You do not need to carry every burden by yourself anymore. God saw the tears you hid from everyone. And He never stopped loving you. Through every one of them. Healing has already begun. Maybe slowly. Maybe quietly. But truly. Your story is not ending in emotional darkness. God is still holding your heart together. Even now. And maybe, just maybe, what you're calling pain right now isn't punishment at all. Maybe it's something deeper. Something you were never meant to understand in the moment. But only after you survive it. Because sometimes, God doesn't remove the pain. He uses it to break something in you. Not to destroy you. But to rebuild you into someone you never thought you could become. But I know, right now, you're still asking the same question. Why would God allow this to happen to me? And the answer is not simple. It's not comfortable. And it's definitely not what most people want to hear. Because the truth about your pain goes deeper than you think. And in the next episode, you'll understand something that will change the way you see everything you've been through. Episode 3, Why God Allow This Pain. But be careful. Because once you hear this, you may never look at your suffering the same way again.